Welcome back to Gamerbloo. Video game adaptations have always been very infamous for a good reason, and they are usually almost unwatchable for tons of reasons. But some of them are so bad that you will be shocked that they even had the confidence to release it at all. Let's take a look at the top 10 worst video game movies ever made. Dead or Alive may not have too much steam as a franchise today, but it was a big deal back then in the 90s and the early 2000s as one of the best 3D fighting games that you could play. On top of being fun in terms of gameplay, another reason it was so popular was for its sex appeal. Whereas other fighting games tried to be family-friendly, DOA was infamous for its jiggle physics and girls in questionable outfits. So it's no surprise that this popularity and sex appeal would lead to a movie adaptation. After all, what's not to love in the concept, right? Well, the movie managed to do justice to the tons of good-looking aspects, but everything else was a complete miss. The story was barely there, the action was boring, the acting was terrible, and there was absolutely no correlation to the game other than certain characters having the same name. And if you dig deeper, apparently, the movie had a very troubled production too, during which actors got sick due to the conditions of the island they were on. It's a disaster true and true, and since then, DOA never got a movie again.
Leon!
Room service.
While the general opinion about the first 3 Resident Evil movies was kind of negative, there are those people who still enjoy them as a zombie flick that vaguely takes a few elements from the video games. But when Afterlife came out, even the audiences that didn't care about inaccuracies related to the game gave up. This movie completely dropped its connection to the video games and featured little to no relation or reference other than certain characters having the similar name. The action was boring, the acting performance were mediocre since the script they had didn't make sense at all. And it was a very weird direction to take the franchise in even for the standards of bad video game movies. And don't even get me started on what came after, but it's less surprising that the sequels were so bad because they had to carry off this dumpster fire.
You've really become quite an inconvenience for me.
I told you I'd be bringing a few friends.
You should have brought more.
When it was announced that Borderlands would be getting a live-action movie adaptation, people weren't completely against it because we actually had some serviceable video game movies by now as the directors have stopped going completely against the source materials these days. However,
Would you look at that? A ladder! Unfortunately, my design doesn't facilitate this type of...
Well, destiny awaits.
But Tekken is a franchise that we've all played at some points in our lives. Even if we're not a fan of the fighting games, we may have played it for a second at an arcade or at a friend's house. It's something that you know exists even if you don't like it. So, we finally got an official movie adaptation, and it wasn't a random direct-to-movie flick either. No, it was a big deal. As you'd expect for a movie on this list, Tekken was horrible. The actors looked and acted nothing like the characters from the game. The story was terrible, the action was mostly bad, and the final battle somehow had axes instead of cool electric fists.
Yes, there it is. The lust for vengeance, the hunger to kill, like fire coursing through your veins. You can't deny it, Jin. It's what makes you who you are. The curse of the Mishima blood. My father, my son.
Even the relationships that the character had with each other were laughably wrong, such as how Nina, Anna, and Kazuya have a threesome for some reason. Like, seriously, cosplayers do a better job at being these characters. There was also a prequel of sorts called Tekken 2 Kazuya's Revenge, which had nothing to do even with the first movie itself, let alone the video game. Let's not even get into that. It's the prime example of how trying too hard to be edgy can completely ruin an adaptation. Fortunately, we do have Tekken Blood Vengeance, which was a CGI movie that did the franchise justice, even if it had some questionable story decisions. This movie, being so unbelievably bad, came as a shock to everyone who was expecting something good after watching the first Mortal Kombat movie, which was surprisingly very good at all things considered. Annihilation was a complete mess with nothing happening in its favor besides maybe some of the character outfits. The fight were a big downgrade from the first movie. The plot was incoherent and it had too many characters and side plots mashed into one movie. A lot of things that are mentioned are never brought up again, and it's just sad to watch this movie because it shouldn't have been that hard to make a good adaptation of Mortal Kombat 2. As a kid, I remember rewatching it hoping I ended up liking it, but sadly, it's just a missed opportunity that killed all live action projects for Mortal Kombat until the web series Legacy came out.
If anything happens to me, I want you
Katana, I have lost everything, and I'm not going to lose you too.
Making a bad Silent Hill movie is actually remarkable because it's one of the most cinematic and story-rich series of video games. Yet, Revelation has weak character writing, a plot that makes almost no sense, and it's hardly scary at all. Not even teenagers get scared by it when watching it. Instead of being mysterious on purpose, this movie just feels confusing unintentionally due to being so poorly written and directed. The first movie sort of got some of the atmosphere and themes of the games right, even if it still wasn't great. But this movie just feels like a mandated production that just had to exist, not because it was needed or that its staff had any interest in making a good adaptation.
I gave you life so you could live my dream. You're the part of me that could be free of this pain, could live and feel love.
Do you feel nothing?
Nothing.
But hate.
Super Mario Bros. Is a movie adaptation that confused millions of children in the 90s. When we enter a disc or walk into a cinema with Super Mario Bros. On our mind, we expect to see the colorful Mushroom Kingdom, our favorite Italian plumbers, the goofy but fierce Bowser, and tons of other things. Instead, what people got was an extremely weird dystopian movie with an icky world filled with disgusting looking creatures, no colors, and a story that had absolutely nothing to do with the video games. Like, really, if you thought DOA or Tekken movie adaptations were random, wait until you see this one. Over time, people have grown to enjoy this movie in the same way people enjoy Tommy Wiseau's The Room. It's so insanely bad that it's enjoyable in a funny way. But hey, I think I want to watch this adaptation to happen real soon.
I used to drive.
People say a lot of things.
You got a name?
It's a me. Mario.
Alone in the Dark is considered one of the worst movies ever made, even unrelated to being related to a video game. The movie is not scary whatsoever. The story and characters do not resemble anything from the source material, and it feels like a complete mess from the start to finish due to how painfully uninteresting it is. Usually, we have one or two fans of every bad movie or just a silver lining to find in it. For example, people love the Eddie Gordo actor and fight from the live-action Tekken movie even if it sucks otherwise. But Alone in the Dark? No way. Nothing works here. There's not a single moment of fun in this flick. What makes things even better is that Uwe Boll, who is notorious for his reputation of making bad video game movies, outright admit that this one was just bad. He didn't make any excuses and just said, okay, it was not good, I agree. Even though normally he does think that the movies he made are enjoyable.
What's going on, Carnby?
That's what I'm trying to figure out here.
Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li is a very, very confusing project. Street Fighter is not a complicated franchise, especially when you're trying to focus on just one character in the franchise. But for some reason, this movie gets everything wrong and basically feels like an unrelated movie that just randomly got the license name slapped on it. First of all, it's completely miscast. The characters don't match their actors at all. And Chun-Li isn't even an Asian lady somehow. The story is bad even for a generic action movie, and not a single fight scene is memorable, which is insane when you consider the fact that this movie is based on a fighting game. Some people say that the Street Fighter movie that we had in our childhood was bad, and I agree. It wasn't great, but at least it worked as a project that made you go like, hey, that's Ryu and M. Bison. It was good for selling toys and generally didn't bore you. This movie, on the other hand, well, no one wanted it. Wants it or will want it. It's not even unintentionally funny like Mario Brothers was. Before we get to the last film, I hope you're subscribed to the channel for more of our content because there are so many other lists that you'll see from us. Dungeon Siege is a name that is mostly forgotten now in the RPG genre, but it used to be a fairly popular series published by Microsoft back in the day. The first game was extremely popular and sold 1.7 million copies, which wasn't considered little back in the days as it is today. And then, it got tons of expansions and sequels over time, although the ones that came later did not receive the same kind of attention or acclaim. It's not the most obvious choice for a movie adaptation, but it wasn't that surprising when they announced that they are finally making one. But while people expected an interesting movie set in the old ages, what we get was nothing short of a joke. The acting in the movie was unintentionally hilarious as no one had any idea what they're doing. And Jason Statham does not even look like he belongs there. Even if you look at the poster of the movie, it looks like it's a random action movie from the modern days, not something set in the old ages. Those were the 10 worst video game movies ever made. If you like this list, do subscribe for more and hit the bell icon. And let me know in the comments if you want to see 10 more terrible video game movies, because believe me, there's plenty more where that came from.